Hi everyone! Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hello! My name is Caroline and I make sewing tutorials and sewing patterns to help you along the sewing journey. And for today's video, I'll be sewing my Pinterest board once again. For some reason, you guys really like that video, so I'm making another one with the same format. Last time I made 4 different pieces, a matching denim set. That was a mini skirt with a side split and a top with bows that close on the front. And I also made a puff sleeve top and a pair of shorts. If you haven't seen it, I'll leave that video in the description, but for today's video, I am actually planning on making 3 pieces. If I have enough time, I'll make 4, but since this time the pieces are a little bit more time consuming, I think the video would end up being way too long to make 4, but we'll see. But my current plans are, first I'll make a pair of pleated linen pants, and I'll be using a free pattern to make them. I'll leave the link to the pattern in the description. It's called the Sarah Pleated Pants by fabricstore.com. The second item is a matching vest inspired by the Aritzia ones that are very popular right now, with a high neckline, front buttons, and that goes all the way to the hips. The third piece will be a very basic tank top. I'll show you how to make the pattern for that because the ones that I made before are already looking a little bit old and I really want new ones. And if I have enough time, I'll also make a midi/long gathered white skirt because I've been seeing these so often and they would match so well with the vest. I want to start with the vest this time. So you remember the denim top with the front ties that I made in the last video? I loved it so much and so did you guys apparently. I asked if you wanted me to work on a pattern for that to let me know in the comments, and a few of you did. So I'm working on it, almost finished, but I thought to myself, I don't think everyone out there would love to wear a top that is open at the front because the ties keep the top closed, but if you're wearing a bra, for example, it will show, which is a look that I think looks really cute, but some people might not like that or might not feel comfortable with that. So since I'm making it as a pattern, I thought about making 2 different views for it. The first one would be the one with the bows with the front ties, but the second one will be closed with buttons at the front, like a vest. So this way the pattern is more versatile and more people can enjoy it. The pattern will have princess seams on the front and on the back and will be a little bit longer. If you want to learn how to make the pattern for a vest with princess seams, I have actually already made a video on it. I'll link it in the description, you can go check it out. But the neckline for that one was a little bit different. The one I made had a V cut and this one will be an oval, like high oval neckline, just like the bow tie top. So if you're making the pattern yourself, following that tutorial, that's the only thing that you need to pay attention to, altering the shape of the neckline. But I'm currently finishing grading the first trial of the pattern and I'll need pattern testers too. So I'll leave a form in the description of the video if you want to become a pattern tester and help me test this one. The first view is already done, but during this video, I'm going to test the second version of it to see if I have to make any alterations to the pattern. This morning, I have already cut the pattern pieces. I actually cut using the leftovers from the fabric I bought to make the linen pants. It wasn't the original plan to make a matching set, but I ended up having some leftovers that were almost enough to make a full version of the vest, so I decided to use it to make like the first trial, the first test. But I'm gonna make the pants later. They're already cut, but they're a little bit harder, so I don't want to start with them today. I'm gonna start with the vest because it's a little bit more simple. And I didn't have enough fabric to line the vest this time, but it's fine. I'll just finish it with the facing. It's mostly for me to test the fit of the pattern. But now let's go start making it. I cut the pattern pieces for the vest. This time I cut 2 fronts, 1 back on fold, 2 front facings and 1 back facing on fold. I'm not lining it, so I applied fusible interfacing only to the facings. I placed the right side of the fabric to the side of the interfacing that doesn't have any glue. And then I sewed the interfacing to the facing at the bottom, trimmed the seam allowance in half, and I turned it right sides out. And then after doing that, I glued the interfacing using an iron. The bottom looked so neat and I didn't need to use an overlocker. You can apply interfacing to the wrong side of the fabric and then finish it with an overlocker, but I saw someone do it like this another day and I wanted to check it out if it worked, and it did. It looked really neat. But I don't recommend doing this if your fabric stretches out a lot after cutting, because the fusible interfacing also works as a way to stabilize the fabric so it doesn't deform and change the shape. But for this linen that I was using, it worked really well. It still had the same shape as a pattern piece. And I also applied stay tape to the necklines and to the bottom of the center front panel to keep it from deforming and stretching, and I think it was a good idea to do that. Then I pinned the side front panel to the center front panel, matching the notches. And I pinned the center back panel to the side back panels, matching the notches as well. And I stitched them with a 1 cm seam allowance. Since I'm not lining the entire vest this time, I overlocked the seams and then I top stitched the seam allowance towards the center of the vest. Then I placed the front to the back, right sides together, and I sewed them at the shoulder seams and at the sides. I finished the seams with an overlocker and I sewed the facings at the shoulder seam. Then I placed the facing and the vest right sides together and I pinned around the entire neckline and the front. And then I stitched with the 1 cm seam allowance. I trimmed the seam in half, turned the facing to the inside of the vest, ironed the facing, and then I top stitched the facing to the vest around the edge of the facing. Hello! It's a different day now. It's been a few days since I last filmed because it's been so hot here in Rio that I haven't been able to film properly. I'm getting an air conditioning unit for my room very soon because when I film, I can't even have the fan on because of the noise. And it's so hard, like it's been so hot for the past few days. That's why I've been filming a voiceover so far, because when I sew, I just really needed to have the fan on and it just makes so much noise that it basically destroys the audio. I still don't have an aircon, so I might get some sweat mustaches along the way. I added some highlighter to mask, but I still think you'll be able to tell the difference between highlighter and actual sweat. But so far the vest is almost finished. I know that it's kind of hard to see this dark blue shade on camera, but now I just have to finish the armholes with bias tape, add the buttons and make the buttonhole cases at the front, and then hem the bottom, of course. But I tried it on and it's looking just like how I wanted it, so I'm happy about that. But I think I'm a little bit late on the schedule now since I couldn't really film for the past few days. So as soon as I'm finished with the vest, I'm gonna start working on the pants. So the pants are already cut. They've been made from a free pattern. I tried really hard to find a good free pattern for this video because I wanted everyone to be able to follow along. And I think I did. I'm really excited to make the pants because I think they look just how I want them to look like. I have wanted a pair of pleated linen pants for so long, but I'm really tall, so pants at stores are usually way too short on me. That's actually one of the main reasons why I wanted to learn how to sew. And now I usually only ever wear stuff that I make using my own body measurements, so whenever I go to a store, which doesn't happen that often anymore, I usually get really disappointed because whenever I try clothes on, like pants or dresses, the rise is never high enough, or in case of dresses, like this waistline is always way too high and the hemline is always like way too high up too, it's like too short. Because here in Brazil we don't really have like a tall section at stores. I know that's a thing in other countries like the US, but here it's not really a thing. Maybe one day if I travel abroad to the US or like to the Netherlands where people are really tall, I'll be able to find stuff that fit me. But anyways, before I go and show you all the alterations that I made to the pattern, which were quite a lot actually. I'd like to take a moment to talk about Skillshare, who's kindly sponsoring today's video. Skillshare is the largest online learning platform for creative people like us, with so many classes to choose from that are taught by industry experts. And it's a great place for you to learn almost anything you like. You can find classes on design, illustration, photography, cooking, sewing, productivity, and so much more. I am personally always drawn to the artistic side of Skillshare classes. I've taken so many of them already. This time I decided to try and learn gouache properly, so I took Escape to Nature, a beginner's guide to gouache landscapes by Bianca Rayala. The class was great for me as a beginner because before going into the actual painting side, she took her time to teach more about gouache techniques so we could learn more about it. I'll have her class linked in the description of the video, and if you'd like to join me and start learning or perfecting a new skill, the first 500 people to use my link will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. Thank you Skillshare for sponsoring this video, and now let's finally go make the pens because I'm really excited to make them. I think it's really impressive how every time that I decide I'm going to film, there's a lot of noise going on in the neighborhood. Today, it's the day to cut all the grass. So there's this guy with a machine cutting the grass and it's making a lot of noise, like so I had to close the window and turn on the fan so I don't die. It's in the lowest setting possible, so I hope the audio isn't that bad, but if it is, I'm sorry, it's gonna continue to be like this. I can't stay here without the fan. Let's just hope the AC unit comes soon. Here are all the pattern pieces for the pens. They are already cut. And I also already interfaced the pieces that needed to be interfaced, which is the waistband and the fly facing. And before cutting it, I had filmed the explanation of all the alterations that I did to the pattern. But as I was uploading the files to my computer, like uploading everything that I have filmed so far, I couldn't find them. I don't remember exactly which day I filmed it, but I think I might have deleted it when I was trying to clear up space on my SD card. So I'm gonna try to do it again, which makes me a bit upset because I have filmed all the alterations in detail while I was doing them before I cut it. And now the whole thing is already cut, so I can't just rewind it and do it again. I'll try my best to explain everything, but if you still think it's confusing, please let me know in the comments and maybe I can work on a blog post with like photos and illustration of what I did. Because for my videos, like I want you guys to come out of my videos learning something new. And since I'm not showing you how to make the actual pattern for the pants, maybe if you're in a similar situation for mine, you can learn how to alter the pattern too. But I'll be using the Sarah Pants pattern by fabricstore.com. It's a free pattern on their website. I'm going to link the pattern in the description. And the sizing goes from a 0 to 2 because they're bundled, like they have 2 sizes in one. So a 0 to 2 to a size 28 to 30, which is from a 35-inch hips to 58-inch hips. I'll convert that to centimeters later on the screen. So it has a front fly, pockets, 1 pleat at the front and a dart at the back. And the legs seem kind of tapered. They don't seem to be really wide, but mine might be a little bit wider because the issue for me is I have a pear-shaped body. Usually my bust and my waist are a certain size, but my hips are 1 to 2 sizes bigger. For some patterns, I can kind of get away with it. Like for my own patterns, the dresses that I've made so far, I pick the size according to my bust and my waist, because if the skirt is flared, then it won't make too much of a difference. You just have to check the final garment measurements chart. So just for reference, in case you plan on making this pattern, my waist is 64 centimeters. It fluctuates a bit, but currently is 64. And my hips are 99 centimeters. So in this case, I can't really choose my size according to my waist, because if I do that, if I choose the size 0 to 2, then it will not fit me at the hips at all. Because the final garment measurements for a size 0 to 2 is 96 centimeters for the hips. So it would be too tight. So what I had to do was to pick my size according to my hips and then alter it to fit my waist. Some people prefer to print both sizes and then connect the hips of the biggest one to the waist of the smallest one. You can do that if it's something that you're used to, but I'm gonna do it differently. I think it will give me a slightly different look in the end. I think the pants will end up being a little bit more oversized at the legs and stuff, but I'll size up twice. Well, technically just once, because if I were to choose the size according to my hips, it would be the 4 to 6, but I decided to print a size 8 to 10 instead and alter it a little bit to fit me. So that's why I'm a bit upset that I lost the footage, because I was showing you how I altered it while I altered it. But basically I decided to add a second pleat to the front of the pants and a second dart to the back of the pants to take in all the extra fabric that I would have at the waist. And as I said, I'm pretty tall, so I also had to lengthen the legs of the skirt, so I added 10 centimeters to the legs. And since I sized up, the rise of the pants was already higher, so that's not something that I had to alter, because I compared it to a pair of pants that I have in here that fit me really well, like fit me right at the waist. And the rise seems okay, so I didn't really alter that. I'll show you on the table all the alterations that I made, so don't worry. But because of the style of the pants, I think these alterations that I made will actually make it look more like the style that I want, which is a bit looser at the legs and with 2 pleats instead of 1, 2. But now let me show you how I did that. I have my notes here with me because it's actually been a few days. Some of them are in Portuguese, but what I did was I went to the finished garment measurements chart for the pants, and the finished measurements for the waist of the size 0/2 is 26.5 inches, and the finished measurements for the size 8 to 10 is 31 inches for the waist. But the difference between the waist of the size 0 and the size 8 is 11.45 centimeters at the end. And in total, we have 2 fronts and 2 backs. So we have 4 pattern pieces in total that we're going to cut. So I divided the 11.45 by 4, so I could know exactly how much I would need to take in on each pattern piece, because they are 1/4 of our waist. And that measurement for me was 2.85 centimeters, which is a little bit over 1 inch. 1 inch would be 2.5 centimeters. So 2.85 centimeters that I had to take in on each pattern piece at the waist. For the front, it was very simple because the pattern came with the placement for the pleat. It's gonna be harder for you to see now because I have already made the new notches, so I'm sorry about that. But these 2 little lines here in black, the drawing, not the cut, these are the original pleat notches, because what we would do when we close this off is just to fold it like this to make the pleat. So what I did was I added the measurement of the pleat that we already have to the 2.85 that I need to take in. And then I divided it by 2, so both pleats would be equal. And this is the original placement of the pleats. So I just made one here and one here. Now this is the back. The dart didn't really come drawn in. It was just these 2 notches right here and the little circle that represents the bottom, I guess. I ended up drawing mine because I feel like that helps me visualize it a little bit better. But I basically did just the same thing as I did for the front. I moved the first dart placement a little bit closer to the center back. And then I added a second dart that's a little bit shorter and a little bit narrower with the remaining measurement that I needed to take in. And the only difference when cutting this part was that before cutting at the top, I actually folded the dart as they are supposed to be, and I retraced the waistline. And as I said, I also lengthened the legs of the pants by 10 centimeters. So to make sure I wasn't cutting anything tilted, I used the grain line as a guide to draw a perpendicular line. And then I spread the pattern pieces apart and I added another piece of paper underneath, making sure that we have 10 centimeters all around, that it's not tilted, that one side isn't bigger than the other. And I could have cut the waistband pattern piece from size 02, but since it's just a rectangle, I decided to just use the one that I had printed previously, and then if I have any leftovers, which I will have, I will just cut it off. But that's basically it. And since I didn't have to alter the rise of the pants at all, I didn't have to change the fly pieces or the pockets, so that was a little bit more simple. But if you do have to alter this, you can just spread them apart equally. Like if you're making this longer, you have to make all of the pattern pieces that are on this part the same size. But that's it. Usually I'm really detailed with my sewing instructions, but this time I'm gonna go a little bit faster through the steps. Fabricstore.com has a blog post with really good instructions on how to make this pattern. And while I was searching for reviews of the pattern to see people who made them, to see the fit and all of that, I have also found a video tutorial by So Happy on YouTube that's really detailed. She does a really good job on showing you every single step of the sewing process. So if you need more help, you can go check her video. I'm going to link it in the description. I honestly think that even beginners could make these pants following her tutorial. Even adding the zipper fly, she made a really good video, you'll be in good hands. I feel like if I try to show every single step, the video is just going to be way too long, so I'm gonna try to focus on adding more to what's already out there, like the alteration I made that could be helpful even if you don't have a pear-shaped body. You might just want a more oversized look for the pants. So yeah, I'm gonna start sewing now, and then I'm gonna come back to talk to you if I feel like there's anything I need to add. Well, it was the first time in a very long time since I had to sew a front fly. I think I did it like only once in my life, years ago during the sewing and pattern making course that I took, so I didn't really remember how to do it from memory. So I followed the video from So Happy and it was pretty smooth. I mean, almost, but it wasn't her fault. I'm not really used to making other people's patterns, and it's been a while since I followed someone else's tutorial, but it was nice doing that for a change because I didn't need to think as much. But of course, I made a mistake. Here's when I realized I interfaced the wrong side of the front fly, and I had already cut the vest at this point, so I barely had any fabric left. I only had like 2 rectangles of this size, but I ended up having to cut the pattern piece cross-grain wise because it wasn't fitting. Which I don't think was a problem since I glued the interfacing this time before cutting it, so the interfacing stabilized the fabric because the fabric had quite a bit of elastane in it, so it was a bit stretchy, and I ended up cutting the length of the fly in the stretchy direction, but it's fine. It's what I could do. I don't think it changed anything in the end. And I did top stitch it wrong as well, but I seam ripped it and no one will notice. But ta-da! After working on it for over 1 hour, the front fly is here. And here I'm folding the pleats, but I actually had to move both pleats around 3 centimeters towards the side seam because the position I had placed them before was way too close to the fly and it was looking strange. So once again, the seam ripper was my best friend as usual. But what matters is that the final placement was pretty good. And then I sewed the pockets to the pants, which was pretty simple considering the past few steps, and I didn't make any mistake this time. And the front of the pants was finished, which is the hardest part of this project. And it was also the only thing that I did this day. Then I took a break to make a banana and oatmeal smoothie, because even though I didn't really want to go, I had to hit the gym to keep destroying everyone on Gym Rats. The competition is fierce and I cannot let my friends win. But now we're at the second day of working on the pants and I have to start making the back now. So I started by transferring the back darts to the fabric and hello, you can see me now and yourself. I mean, the camera. And then I pinned and sewed the back darts and I ironed the darts towards the center back. Then I placed the back panels right sides together to sew them at the crotch area. And then I placed the front and back right sides together, sew them at the sides. Then once again, place them right sides together and sew them at the legs. And I'm almost done by this point. I only need to add the waistband, but now it's the perfect time to check the fit of the pants to see if the math I did at the beginning was correct or not. And it was. It was fitting me pretty well, thank God. And then I sewed the belt loops before attaching the waistband. And then I pinned the waistband to the pants. And then I pinned the inside part of the waistband, folding it down. And then I stitched in the ditch to make sure that the stitches wouldn't be visible on the outside. And then I hemmed the pants and I added the buttons and made the buttonhole case as well. And it was finally over after 2 days. I went to the salon yesterday to get my roots done and now my hair is considerably darker than it was. I'm not 100% sure how I feel about it yet. Let's see how it will look like once it fades a little bit, but yeah, I'm kind of brunette-ish now. But it still has red undertones, it's just that it's a little bit darker. But now it's time for the easiest project out of the 3, finally. I want more tank tops, more knit tank tops. I already have a pattern that I made years ago that I really like the fit, so I'm gonna reuse that. But I'll make another one on the table before I move forward with the sewing part, just so you guys know how to make it at home if you want to. It's very simple, and since it's made with knit, it will be way more forgiving. I could also work on releasing this as a pattern on my shop if you want, but since it's pretty simple, maybe it wouldn't be that popular. But I thought the same thing about my Easy Summer Shorts pattern, and it turns out that it's one of my most popular patterns, so I don't know. If you do want it though, let me know in the comments and I'll start working on it. Now let's go see how to make the pattern. So I'll try to do this in a very simple way, so hopefully everyone can follow along. But for stretchy knits, you don't really need to worry too much about perfection. So I'll try to keep this short and simple, but if you want, you can check out my basic bodice block tutorial. And when you're drafting, you just ignore the darts completely, like the shoulder dart and the waist dart. Unless you have a really big cup size and you feel like stretchy knits won't fit you that well without a dart. That is not really my case. But I feel like for this type of tops, you could also just copy a top that you like the fit of. This is the style that you could get away with doing that. But if you want to draft it using your body measurements, you will need your bust measurement, your waist measurement, and the total length of the top, which in my case, I am measuring from the shoulder blades all the way to my waist. And since we're working with knits, we kind of need, like for this type of design to be tight-fitting, we need to work with negative ease, which means we need to reduce the bust and the waist measurements so it's really snugly, like it fits tight around our body. If your fabric is really stretchy, like this one that is made for workout clothes, then you need to reduce more. But if your fabric doesn't really stretch that much without looking transparent on like this, can you see the difference? Then you need to reduce less, or even not at all, because if it doesn't stretch that much, even though it's a knit, then you need room to put it on top of your body. But the fabric that I'll use is a viscose and elastane blend that is quite stretchy, so before starting anything, I will multiply my bust and my waist measurements, so my horizontal measurements, by 0.9. You can use a calculator to do that. And since I'm multiplying it by 0.9, it just means that I'm reducing it by 10%. So I go more in depth about this in my legging pattern making tutorial though. You can check it out if you want, but just multiply it by 0.9. But after reducing it, you will create a rectangle with your bust measurement divided by 4 by your shoulder to waist measurement. And you can also reduce it if your fabric stretches vertically and horizontally the same way. So you can take in like 2 centimeters, depending on how much your fabric stretches. But again, you can just make a twirl and then adjust it later if you feel like it needs to be longer or shorter. And then you also need to mark the waist divided by 4 here after reducing. And now here at the top, you can just mark around halfway through. And in my case, for my neckline, I marked 10 centimeters lower here. But if you want your neckline to hit deeper, you can just make it as deep as you want. But I'm going to mark 10. And for the underarm, you can also measure on a top that you have, or you can go in front of a mirror and measure from your shoulder blades all the way to where your shirt is hitting, like under your arm. But in my case, I'm going to use 20 centimeters. And I'll make my straps around 3 centimeters wide. I'm folding the fabric right sides together because it's gonna make it easier this way. Because I'm gonna make the top fully lined this time. And I folded it twice just because the front and the back will be exactly the same. So I'm just gonna cut 4 at the same time to make it faster. So we have 4 layers here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm actually adding seam allowance as I cut it, because I think this pattern doesn't have seam allowance. But I'm adding less than 1 centimeter because since I'll be sewing it with an overlocker, usually the overlocker seam allowance that we use is 0.6 centimeters. But again, it doesn't really have to be that precise with knit. I'm just eyeballing it. And here I separated the front and the back. In my case, they're the same. If you want, you can also make like the front a little bit more scooped. You just have to cut a little bit more, but I like high neck tank tops, but that's up to you. So I'm separating 2 pairs, right sides together. And I'm gonna use the overlocker now, but you can use the regular sewing machine. Just use like a zigzag stitch or any other stretch stitches that your machine has. And I'm going to sew around the neckline and the armholes and the hem. And to make it last longer, I'll also add elastic to all of the seams that I sewed. You can add only using one step with the overlocker, like you just sew while you attach the elastic, but that's something that I struggle with a little bit. So I'm gonna do separately, and I'm going to use my regular sewing machine to attach the elastic with a zigzag stitch because I feel like I have more control when I'm doing that. But that is up to you. If you are more skilled with an overlocker, you can just go ahead and do it in one step. And I'm not even stretching the elastic while I do it. I'm just giving it a little bit of a tension, but not pulling too much. Just laying flat and tensioning it a little bit. As you can see, I didn't really do the greatest job ever, but at the bottom of one of them, you have to either seam rip a little hole, like here, that we're going to use to turn it right sides out later. Or when you're sewing, you can also skip a few stitches to leave a little bit open. And now the side that didn't have a hole, I'm gonna turn it right sides out. And this side right here is the side that we applied the elastic. Since we applied the elastic to this side, I'm going to put it facing upwards so it matches the side that we put the elastic on the other part as well. Now I'm going to open the side and insert this. So both straps are here, matching, and I'm also going to match the sides. And now we sew at the shoulders and at the sides. I don't think you'll be able to see it that well, but I used a narrow zigzag stitch to sew. Now I'm gonna trim the excess just so it's not super bulky. And I'll turn it right sides out using the little hole, which might need to be a little bit bigger. We'll see if I'll be able to pull it. And now I can close this by top stitching using the sewing machine or with an invisible stitch by hand, but it's basically finished. Pretty simple to make. And I tried it on just to see how it fits, and it fits pretty good, just like the other versions that I have made. As you can see, the back neckline is the same as the front, but you can change it however you want. You can make it a little bit lower if you want. But I personally prefer this method of making knit tops because I'm not the most skilled when it comes to sewing knits. So I feel like once you fully line it and you use the elastic on the inside, it looks really well finished. You do use more fabric, but I think the result is worth it. And I think I'm gonna make a white version as well because my white one that I have is already looking pretty worn out. But I'm gonna do it off camera because I already showed you how to make it. So these are the final pieces that I'll be making for this video. I will skip the skirt this time. I think I'll leave it for the next Sewing My Pinterest Board episode. But I'm gonna go quickly make this white version right now. And after I'm done, maybe not today, I think I'm gonna wash my hair first so I can style it the way that I like. But after I'm done, I'm going to film the result to show you guys how all the pieces turned out. And it's gonna start playing right now.
Mas quando eu olho nos olhos, é tudo bem diferente. A boca fala, mas o coração não mente. O amor é uma teoria explicada por gente.
So before I go, I want to do a small review on all the pieces that I made this video. First, the vest. The pattern fits really well, but this fabric has a bit of elastane in it. The denim version also had elastane in it, so both tops were pretty comfortable. But the back was a bit tight when putting on. So maybe non-stretchy fabrics won't work as well for this. Or I'll have to make the fit a bit looser and add those back ties in the back to cinch up the waist, which is very common with vests. I'll still see what I'm gonna do. If you do have an opinion on it, let me know in the comments. But by the time this video is up, I think I'll already have decided this and the pattern will be ready for testers. So once again, if you're interested in becoming a pattern tester for this vest slash top, I'll leave a link for a form in the description. I especially need people in the upper side of the size range. Usually most people who apply are smaller and I don't get a lot of plus size pattern testers. So if you are plus size or if you know someone who might want to try helping me out, I would be so very grateful. Before I send them out, I always test on my mom and now on Louisa as well. But the more bodies wearing the pattern and giving me feedback, the better. Now, the pants, I really like these pants. I think I want to make them again, but using another fabric. Also linen, but better quality linen. Because I don't know if I mentioned this, but this fabric is a blend between linen, viscose, and elastane. The quality doesn't seem that great, so I don't think it will last for a very long time. So I want to make it again, but maybe this time make the legs a little bit wider. That's the only thing that I think I would want to change about this pattern, make the legs a little bit wider than they are. But the pattern in the end was really good, especially for a free pattern. I highly recommend this if you try to learn how to make pants. So the Sarah Pants free pattern by fabricstore.com is approved by me. Their linen is also really good if you want to get it. Not sponsored, by the way, but I have received some of their linen to make a video for them, and you cannot even compare the quality of the linen that they send me to the linen that I can find in stores here in Brazil, which honestly makes me a little bit sad because I wish I had more access to good quality fabrics. But yeah. And now the tank tops, I already knew that I was gonna like them. I wore the ones that I made before. Let me see if I can find one. Until they were pretty worn out. This is old. I think I made it like 5 years ago. So I'm glad I finally made new ones to replace them, so 10 out of 10. I hope you like them too. In case you make the vest or the tops, or even the pants, even though I didn't really have anything to do with the pattern making of them, please tag me on Instagram so I can see your creations. And if you have any ideas for episode 3 of the series, let me know in the comments. I really hope you like this video, and I hope to keep seeing you around next time as well. Bye!
Mas quando eu olho nos